Welcome back. All right, so today I want to talk about Billy Smythe. Why? This may seem random. We've been talking about Andrei Vasilevsky recently and how he's becoming one of the best playoff goaltenders of all time. Sometimes I feel like Billy Smythe falls through the cracks because at the time that he played, goaltenders were seen as, I've seen all the comments about 80s goaltenders. The thing is, the numbers would tell you that Billy Smythe was a very good goaltender, and then he played in an era where defense was just not a thing. And goaltenders were smaller. He was 5'10", but I don't think that meant that he caused any less fear than he would have if he was 6'10". Although if he'd been 6'10" with his stick swinging ability, his penalty minutes would have been much higher. That 475 that he had in his career, second only to Ron Hextall, probably would have been a lot higher, and probably would have had better numbers. But anyways, he's actually drafted by the LA Kings, 59th overall in 1970, and I'd kind of forgotten that. So I'm putting this together and I get the big old New York Islanders magnet, and I was like, all right, so I need one little Kings one right there because he played the 1 year with the Kings, and by 1 year I mean 5 games in 71-72. 1-3-1 record, 4.6 goals against, 871 save percentage. And then June 6th of 1972, he's taken in the expansion draft by the New York Islanders. The New York Islanders were terrible the first couple of years of their existence. Then the Islanders suddenly got better, and then there were a lot of questions about whether or not they were going to end up being a Stanley Cup champion or not. The New York Islanders, Edmonton Oilers, and then, of course, the Detroit Red Wings, those are 3 examples of organizations. There were all kinds of questions about whether or not they could actually win, and then after they did, nobody questioned it anymore. And this is why I don't question whether or not a team's actually ever going to win a Stanley Cup, because I don't think that ages very well. There are definitely a lot of articles I can pull up, and again, once I've got everything all organized around here, I'll be doing like time capsule look backs, and it's interesting to see the hot takes that people made even back in the 70s that turned out to be pretty false. So, but when you're trying to tell the future, that's often the case. 72-73, the first year for the New York Islanders. 37 games, 7-24 and 3 records. So the 24 losses, third in the NHL that year, 4.16 goals against, 878 save percentage. Rough year for Billy and for the Islanders. 73-74, he plays 46 games, which was 10th overall in the NHL that year. 9 wins, 23 losses, which is 4th overall. 12 ties, which is 2nd. So now he's getting more ties. And his overall numbers get better. 3.08 goals against, 897 save percentage. 74-75, he played the most games he ever played in one season in his career. 58, which is 5th. 21 wins, which is 10th overall. 18 losses, 17 ties, which is 1st. And ties were an epidemic at this point, and really 70s and 80s. You look at tie numbers, sometimes they're just ridiculous. 2.78 goals against, which was 8th overall. 905 save percentage, which was 10th. He makes his playoff debut that year. In 6 games, he had a 1-4 record, 883 save percentage. Those first 2 years, he shared the net with Jerry Desjardins. Jerry Desjardins would move on after that. And then it's Chico/Glenn Resch that he is sharing the net with after that. And one thing with his career that I think helped his career go as long as it did, they didn't overplay him. If you don't overplay your goaltender, it saves him from all the bruising and banged up and everything that happens to a goaltender during the year. And I think it makes them fresher for the playoffs. So, 75-76, he plays 39 games, a record of 19-10-9. The 9 ties was 8th overall. 2.62 goals against, which is 5th. 908 save percentage, which is 4th. In 8 playoff games, a record of 4-3 with an 892 save percentage. So very good numbers. Very, very good numbers across the board. And things are looking up for the Islanders. 76-77, 36 games, 21 wins, which is 9th overall. 8 losses, 6 ties, 2.5 goals against, which was 4th. 916 save percentage, which is 3rd. In the playoffs, 10 games, a 7-3 record, 912 save percentage. But we're starting to see the conversation changing a bit around the Islanders. Can this team win the big one? Are we sure? Can they? But can they really, though? So 77-78 in 38 games, 28-8 record. That 8 ties is 10th overall in the NHL. 2.65 goals against, which is 7th. 909 save percentage, which is 5th. Just the one playoff game. He had a 941 save percentage in that game, and he didn't have a decision. So Glenn Chico Resch is the goaltender for that. But he did play in the All-Star game, and that's the only All-Star game he ever appeared in, which surprises me because Billy Smythe was one of the most famous goaltenders in the early 80s and one of the best money goaltenders. Didn't play in the All-Star game. So 39 games in 78-79, 25 wins, which is 6th. Eight losses, 4 ties, 2.87 goals against, which is 5th overall. 899 save percentage was 5th. And this is where you can see save percentages are dropping in the league as offenses are just going crazy. And so a goaltender like Billy Smythe sees the save percentage drop by 17 points, but he's still top 5 in the league in save percentage. In the playoffs, 5 games, 4-1 record for 932 as a save percentage. And coming out of that one, it was maybe the Islanders aren't going to win one. So again, at some point in time, I'm going to do a video where I go through all of my old annuals and everything, and I talk about the darkest before the dawn kind of thing, where a team comes out of a loss, and that question's asked of, can they win in the playoffs? Maybe they can't. Maybe they need to change their style. 79-80, 38 games, 15-14-7 record. They picked up Butch Goring. That helped. But they also started trusting Billy Smythe in the playoffs. So 2.96 goals against, which is 7th overall. 898 save percentage, which again, 5th overall. 20 games in the playoffs, a 15-4 record, 903 save percentage, and there's his first Stanley Cup. So the New York Islanders win the big one, and there were some that thought they were going to be a one and done. But 80-81, 41 games, 22 wins, which was 8th, to go with 10 losses and 8 ties. 3.28 goals against, 895 save percentage, which was 6th overall in the NHL that year. 17 games, 14-3 record, 903 save percentage, Stanley Cup again. And to win the Stanley Cup at this point, you needed 15 wins. The first round, the preliminary round, was best of 5. And the division semifinals would be best of 5 for a little while there too. So when he has the 15 wins, he won every game that he could in the playoffs that year. So 81-82, maybe his best season. 46 games, 32 wins, which is first. 9 losses, 4 ties. 2.97 goals against, which was third. 898 save percentage, which was second. And in the playoffs, 18 games, 15-3 record, 906 save percentage. He wins the Vezina, he wins the Stanley Cup, and he's a first-team All-Star. So for Billy Smythe, a pretty successful season overall. I would say that was likely his best season. Of course, they beat the Canucks in the final that year in 4 straight. So we move on to 83. 1982-83, 41 games, 18-14-7 record. I remember that year there were a lot of discussions about whether or not the Islanders were done. They looked tired. The record wasn't that good. And there were even points during the season where it was, can they even make the play? Maybe they're not going to make it. And then they got hot, and of course, they win the cup, right? 2.87 goals against, which is 4th. 906 save percentage, which is 2nd in the NHL that year. So save percentage comes up a little bit. The crazy years, I believe, were 81 and 82 for scoring. And then after that, it starts to settle down a bit. Not a lot, but a bit. So in the playoffs, 17 games, 13-3 record, 913 save percentage, wins the Conn Smythe and the Stanley Cup. And he shares the Jennings Trophy with Rolly Melanson, who I liked. I liked Rolly the goalie. And back then, I even thought, Rolly's a pretty good goalie. Maybe Billy Smythe, maybe it's time they moved on from Billy, and they went with Rolly Melanson as the starter. Yes, bad takes. I had them in the 80s, even as a kid. So it's never changed. 83-84, 42 games, 23 wins, which is 10th. It's the last time he's top 10 in wins. 13 losses and 2 ties, 3.43 goals against, 896 save percentage, which is 2nd overall. 21 games, 12-8 record, 905 save percentage. Now, 84 and 85, or 83 and 84. In 83, Billy Smythe takes a bit of an embellishment dive, but there's no reviews. There's no penalty for an embellishment. Andy Van Hellemond says, made me look foolish on that play. So 84, when there's a collision between Anderson and Smythe again, there's no call. So Glenn Anderson, who was not exactly an angel on the ice, colliding with Billy Smythe. You can understand why Islander fans might have been mad. So we've been talking about that lately too, right? But for Billy Smythe, he could embellish. And it was part of the game. And it's funny because as mad as people get about it now, embellishment's been in the game for as long as I think the game's existed. And it was a way to draw a penalty. It worked. There was no embellishment call. The embellishment call was brought in as a penalty because it was getting bad depending on the player. 84-85, 37 games, 18-14-3 record, 3.83 goals against, 879 save percentage. The dynasty is really and truly over. But the Islanders, 84-85, like they were a broken down team. They had won 19 straight series before that loss against the Oilers. They had played a ton of hockey. So over a 4-year period, they basically played 5 seasons, right? So it adds up. And it adds up for a guy like Smythe too. In the playoffs, 6 games, 3-3 record, 896 save percentage. So the dynasty's really and truly done. 85-86, though, he plays 41 games, 20, 14, and 4 record, 3.73 goals against, 881 save percentage. So his numbers come up a little bit that year, right? Just a little bit. One game in the playoffs, the one loss, 879 save percentage. So the following season, 86-87, 40 games, 14, 18, and 5 record, 3.53 goals against, 869 save percentage. Plays what would be his final 2 playoff games, no record, 952 save percentage. So why in 87 would he have not have been the guy? Why wasn't he the guy in 86? Because we're into the Kelly Hrudey era. Kelly Hrudey came along and it was clear he was going to be the starter. And Islander fans were excited. I was excited. I remember the first time I got a Kelly Hrudey card, I was so happy because I thought the Kelly Hrudey was just going to be the next one. The same as the Islanders got Pat LaFontaine as an early draft pick. And I thought, oh, great. So now, their dynasty's going to pass. We got Pat Flatley's coming in. Pat LaFontaine's coming in. They got Kelly Hrudey coming up. The Islanders are going to be a dynasty again. No. So again, this is why when people say, well, they've got these young guys coming up, I remember this stuff. And I say, it's no guarantee. So 87-88, he plays 38 games, 17, 14, and 5 record, 3.22 goals against, which is 8th, 894 save percentage, which is 7th. His numbers got a lot better. And it's a good season for him. So the idea that he's bouncing back, and keep in mind, this is like the 17th season of his career, and his numbers got better. Now, the following year, 88-89, that's where it really and truly ends. It becomes Kelly Hrudey's net. He plays 17 games, a record of 3-11, 4.44 goals against, 851 save percentage. And it happens. Every goaltender has that rough year. As they get older, there's that rough year that just throws all their stats out. But I don't think that diminishes what the goaltender was before that. And this is why I don't talk about goalies being sibs. And I don't say, oh, he's clearly past it and he's done and he's terrible. Because I think it's short-sighted. And you're kind of, you're not necessarily looking at the legacy of the goaltender. So that was his final year in the NHL. He plays 869 games, 305 wins, which is 35th of all time, 233 losses, which is 48th, 115 ties, which is 18th, goals against of 3.18, save percentage of 895, and that 475 penalty minutes, that's impressive. He had a lot of penalties. He had a war with Tiger Williams. He and Tiger Williams, you get them on the ice together, straight at each other. So, Tiger Williams in his biography, he even talked about it, how he would make a beeline for Billy Smythe. He wasn't afraid of Billy Smythe because he was Tiger Williams. And so you get your stick swinging going. He is the first goaltender ever accredited with a goal. It was in 1979 against the Rockies. It was a delayed penalty. The puck goes off of his chest protector. Rob Ramage goes to throw the puck to the point. There's nobody there. The puck goes in the empty net. It's Billy Smythe's goal. He was put into the Hall of Fame in 1993, and February 20th of 1993, the New York Islanders retired his number 31. In 2017, he was named as one of the 100 greatest players of all time. And I can't argue with that. His 4 straight Stanley Cups. Once he won that 3rd straight Stanley Cup, there wasn't any question about whether or not he was a Hall of Fame goaltender. But again, we look back now, we look at the stats, and I'm sure there are a lot of people that would be watching this video even and would say, well, he wasn't very good. He was the best money goaltender in the early 80s. It was ridiculous. And you would watch during at least I want to say 82, 83. I was convinced Rolly Melanson was going to be the goaltender. And then you get to the playoffs and, it's Billy Smith's net. And there was no argument about whether or not it was the right call because that 13-3 record, pretty darn solid. 15-3 the year before that. So that's a combined record of 28-6. It's impressive. So overall, Billy Smythe, the New York Islanders dynasty, fantastic. And so there you go. Career Billy Smythe, one of the greatest goaltenders of all time. The NHL acknowledges one of the 100 greatest players of all time. I'd be interested to know your thoughts. If you're old enough to remember Billy Smythe, as I am, I wasn't born when his career started, but yeah, by the time his career finished, I had a lot of opinions on Billy Smythe. Not always a guy I respected a lot because I was like, hey, he's fighting with the Canucks again. But again, that was part of his game. The fighting was part of his game. And that crease was pretty clear. Once a goaltender's known for taking a swing at the ankles of anybody that gets within swinging distance, he gets some space in front of the net. And guys would wear ankle guards because of him. It was just, we have to make sure because he's not shy. And he knew how to get away with it too. I mean, the embellishment was there, but so was the making sure that you slash the player. Referee's not seeing what's going on. Just, all right, well, he's out. Oh, that's a shame about your ankle. Maybe you shouldn't stand so close to my net. So that was the kind of guy he was, and it was intimidating and different. It was fun to watch and definitely different. Goaltenders are different creatures in general, and Billy Smythe was no exception. Apparently he didn't like being talked to in the locker room. So again, when you know the guy's willing to swing his stick around and basically play slap shot at any given time, you just leave him alone. Just leave them alone. All right, let me know your thoughts, though, in the comment section below. As always, don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through, you just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.